This is your Weather Xtreme video for Sunday, February the 26th. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters, and as we wind down February, looks like we're going to have a bit of a wet note as well as a mild note. Skycam imagery this morning from the Alpha Skycam network. There's a cool shot from Birmingham, and you can see both combination of clouds and some breaks in those clouds. And there's a look from Trustful with kind of a bluish tint to it as the sun is rising. We've got a little disturbance moving along in the upper atmosphere, the Gulf Coast area, and that disturbance has brought in a blanket of clouds that helped to keep us a little warmer last night and this morning. And there's the disturbance on the upper air chart moving across Louisiana. It's going to be dampening out as it moves across the southeastern U.S., keeping all the precipitation basically down along the Gulf Coast. And why are we not going to get any precipitation up here? Well, there's a look at the sounding, and you can see how dry it is, all the way from 800 millibars all the way up to 400 millibars. So pretty hard for any precipitation to fall through that dry layer. Temperatures across the country have gone a little milder this morning with the freezing line, that red line you see there. Basically, it looks like maybe about 40% of the country below freezing and the rest of the country above freezing. So very mild down there in South Florida with the 70s. And remember, these are 5 a.m. temperatures or 6 a.m. temperatures. Around central Alabama, we're generally in the 40s, a little bit cooler over at Anniston and extreme western Georgia, where the clouds didn't make it in quite as early, and also a little chillier in the Tennessee River Valley, where the clouds were not nearly as prevalent. There's a look at radar, and much of the echoes that you see across South Alabama, very little, if any, of that is reaching the ground. QPF-wise, we're looking at probably on the order of around an inch, primarily coming late Tuesday and into Wednesday, because this goes through Thursday evening, and then our next shot will be Friday and into Saturday. And on day 3, which, let me think about that, is Sunday, Monday, that's Tuesday into Tuesday evening, slight risk centered primarily over Arkansas, parts of Missouri, and very extreme eastern Oklahoma. The 06Z GFS model run, and you can see the high pressure moving across and being centered over the Outer Banks by noontime today, and we can see the precipitation along the Gulf Coast and across extreme northern Florida. The little short wave across the Great Lakes is not having much influence on us on Monday, as we're primarily under that ridge, so we should see a pretty nice day. A few passing clouds, but nothing too exciting to write home about. For Tuesday, the 28th, there comes our next big weather system with a strong trough coming out of the mid-Rockies, and that should be bringing a surface low. The GFS not quite as strong with the surface low as the European is, the European with a 988 low, whereas the GFS was a 1,000 millibar low, and also the GFS not quite as bullish on the precipitation. We kind of saw this yesterday. Between the European and the GFS, the European a little more bullish on a little bit more activity along the warm front that should be moving northward on Tuesday. Let's take an intermediate time, though, and see what happens at midnight. The low moves up and deepens, according to the GFS, moves up towards the western Great Lakes. In the meantime, drags that front down into the Memphis area. And then by 18Z or noon on the 29th, leap day, we see the strong bowling ball close low approaching Lake Michigan, and along with that we see that the front has dragged down into our area, so we should see some rain on Wednesday, but it looks like it is weakening according to what the GFS is showing. The bowling ball does dampen somewhat and becomes an open trough over New England on Thursday, and that should pave the way for us to be under that kind of intermediate ridge before the next system comes in out of the northern Rockies, and you can see that diving in across the middle part of the Rockies on Friday, and so that sets the stage for us to see another surface low come out of the Rockies ahead of that trough, and Not looking, on the GFS at least, not looking quite as strong as it did yesterday. I think I mentioned yesterday the possibility we might see some strong to severe storms with this one. The GFS not looking quite as good, but I still think there is a possibility of that. The European is not quite as strong with it either, showing mostly warm frontal rain there and the surface low in the vicinity of northern Arkansas. But let's take another intermediate time, and of course things do get a little dicier, and of course the contrast across this front is going to be pretty good. You can see the 540 line coming into extreme northwestern Arkansas. In the meantime, looks like we have a pretty good squall line situation developing and this is midnight Friday night and into early Saturday morning. So it looks like this is going to be an overnight kind of event according to the timing. And indeed, the European, not quite the same orientation, just a little bit different than the GFS. At least they're both in the same ballpark, but certainly some minor differences between the two. And right now, I kind of think the GFS has got a little bit better handle on it. Finally, as we head into the next weekend, we see that trough dragging, if you will. It's just not blasting by. And so there comes the trough, and that should drag the front slowly through here on Saturday with the precipitation ending. And it looks like perhaps a little bit colder. Once again, by Sunday, you can see the 540 line just dipping down into extreme northeastern Alabama, but we should be seeing improving weather by Sunday, and even though it'll be just a little bit cooler. All right, going out further into voodoo country, another wet system on the 7th with a nice strong trough coming across the central part of the United States. And then finally, at the very end of the period, we see another fairly strong trough with a little bit more amplitude to some northwesterly wind. Although it looks like it's moving by quickly enough that it probably will not have a really significant impact on temperatures. Yeah, drop it back some, but certainly not extreme cold anyway, and this is around the 11th and 12th. Well, that'll do it for the Weather Xtreme video. Thanks for tuning in. I expect James Spann to be back in the hot seat once again first thing Monday morning with the next edition of the Weather Xtreme video. In the meantime, I hope that your Sunday is a great one, and Godspeed.
Thank you for trusting us to be your #1 source for news
in all of Central Alabama.
in back-to-back ratings periods.
More people watched ABC 3340
than any other station in Birmingham.